when we have a leader's mindset, instead of asking what's wrong, we ask what's missing. What's missing? It's so simple, but try it. When you're asking what's wrong, you just get this massive list of all the stuff that's wrong. You've got no opening for action to get any of it resolved. You just have a massive list. When you're asking what's missing, like what's missing right now in this moment that if I could provide it would make a difference? You're asking it, it's a leadership question. And in the work that we did at the Hunger Project, if you look at the issue of hunger, which is so enormous, right, obviously, what's wrong? Oh, corruption, oh, this, oh, blah, blah, blah. You're left with this massive list, but you don't know what to do about it. It's just you feel overwhelmed. So you just go back into overwhelm and powerlessness. And instead we asked, what's missing right now that if we could provide it would make a difference? And so we looked at what was missing. One of them was women having agency, women having power, women being brought to the centre of decision making in their own villages. That was missing. Right, so then we designed programs to make that happen. Whereas, so that gives you an example of, so ask yourself, what's missing right now? So sometimes even in a conversation, when you get to that logjam, often our brain, when we're in victim mindset, we go to what's wrong here? So you can say, okay, look, you could step back with whoever you're in conversation with, or the team. Okay, like what's missing? What's missing that if we provided it would make a difference right now? Maybe what's missing is a break. You just need like 5 minutes and you can come back. Sometimes it'd be actually something quite simple. So instead of blame, looking for blame, apportioning it, including blaming yourself for stuff, it's about responsibility. So responsibility is in a leader's mindset context. It's not about 50-50, like I've kind of done my bit and now I'm just waiting from Kelly from accounts to do her bit, which is often how we hold it. And then when they don't do everything that I thought that they were going to do at the time, then we sort of head back down here. It's about really having 100% ownership about how I show up, ownership about my communication, ownership about, even for me with the issue of hunger, I took ownership for it. Had I caused it? Obviously not. Is it just up to me to solve it? Clearly not. That's ludicrous. But I took ownership for bringing everything that I could to get the issue resolved. That's what responsibility is about. And often we outsource responsibility to others. So it's really about kind of owning what I need to do and my part in making it happen. From overwhelm, we need to break it down into simple steps. Because overwhelm is just like, there's so much, it's like an avalanche. It's about just making things smaller and smaller and smaller. Professor Teresa Amable from Harvard University has done lots of research on this, and she calls it the progress principle. And that is that there's a couple of different elements to it. One is that when we are feeling overwhelmed, one of the antidotes is that at the end of every day, to find at least 2 or 3 things, even if they were small things, but they were wins, even if they were small, that would towards something meaningful, some meaningful outcome, and start to track that can help start to lower overwhelm. Because partly overwhelm is that it's so much to do, and even if I do this little bit, it's not really going to matter. It's still like a fire hose sort of coming at me, and keep chunking it down. So in a village context, the simple step would be the whole community would build 1 toilet, right? They needed probably 500 toilets in that village, but they started with 1. And then doing that created the momentum, and they built 10 and they went on and on from there. But it's actually just chunking it down so you have at least your next step that you can take is the way to help build yourself out of overwhelm. Helpless is moving from helpless to realizing we all have agency. Even if it's just how we show up, most of us have heard of Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. And in the concentration camps, he had no say, about being there, what he got to eat, what work camp he was sent on, whether he had a blanket. He realised the only thing that he had control over was how he responded to his situation, how he reacted to it, the power he gave it or not to rule his life and his inner world. And that's really the kind of like one of the key things around agency. And instead of always asking why, like, why is it like this? Why isn't he? Why isn't the government doing this? Why? You ask what? Given the situation we're in, what can we now do? What's our next action? Just shortcuts the rumination. And the last one, instead of just being right, finding all your evidence to why you're right, why it's so messed up and why it's so hard and why we get very invested in right. And a leader gets, instead of wanting to be right, doubling down, gets curious. Like, okay, well, tell me about that. Tell me how come it's this way, or what other way can I be looking at it?